There's a
true. Yeah.
huge difference between being an introvert and being shy. I had to
Right.
learn that the hard way. There's nothing wrong with being an introvert. There's so many successful people that are introverts. It just
Mm.
simply means that when you're giving on stage or you're teaching or whatever you're doing, you're in the spotlight. That's great for short periods of time. But then afterwards, you need to go home and be by yourself to recharge your batteries.
That's a
Where
life changer, what you just said there.
but an extrovert will want to go into the audience and shake hands and kiss babies and have a photograph and go out and party with their friends afterwards until 3 o'clock in the morning because they recharge by people. I
Mm.
don't. I recharge on my own, in my privacy of my own home, with a little bit of meditation or deep breathing or whatever. It doesn't mean I'm shy. It's a completely different story.
Welcome, everybody. You are listening to the A Players Podcast, the place where we build and interview leaders in their field so that you can hone your skills too and be at the top of your game, allowing you to make the most out of any situation and reach higher levels of success. I'm your host, Louis Haydon, and coach to very high income earners. And I'm on a mission to give everyone the opportunity to step into wealth by giving you the skills, tools, and actionable steps to go that next level. And today we've got the right person for you to go the next level. We've got one of the Australia and international voice coach, Elisa James, and she's going to be talking about how you can use your voice to become more confident. She knows a lot more about this, so I'm not going to spoil the show by giving too much away at the start. But before we jump in with Elisa, just a quick reminder that the A Players podcast and community remains free. And the reason it's free is because we're on a mission to give back and share with you, the listener, knowledge gained from working with highly successful individuals and extensive research in management science. In line with this, to allow us to achieve that mission, we do ask that you just follow or subscribe to this podcast because it really helps us on that journey to help more people. And for those that are eager to dive deeper and boost their income with actionable steps, we've got the 100K Club as well. Just click on the little padlock and subscribe to that, and you can start increasing your income with actionable steps. Okay, so Elisa James, how are you doing?
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here, Lewis. Thank you.
Awesome. Look, it's great because we haven't spoken in a while. When I used to live in Australia and I was doing a lot of my initial business coaching journey start out, I came to you because I had this challenge. And the challenge was that I'm a young, how old was I then? 28, 30,
Yeah.
going around Australia. And I'm thinking I'm going to make a big impact in Australia. And I get up there up on stage. I speak for half an hour. Any questions at the end? People would put their hand up and they'd go, "Yeah, where you from, mate?" And I'd go, wow. Did any words that I was just saying resonating with these people? Are people actually capturing? And it really knocked my confidence. I thought, what the heck's going on? So I went and saw you, and you taught me a lot of life lessons about how to present myself better, how to get my voice well captivating to the audience, should we say. But
Yeah.
most of all, a mindset shift of be who you are,
Oh.
Lewis. Really be who you are, and you really helped me out there. So yeah, you work with CEOs, you work with great leaders in businesses. So yeah, could you share us a little bit more about what you do and how you help these people?
Yeah, look, absolutely. There are two groups of people that I normally work with. One group are people who work in a corporate environment, usually C-suite level corporate executives, usually higher up in the industry. So they're leaders in their field, somehow managers. They're managing big teams. The other group, business owners, small business owners that are trying to make their first 100K. So that's the business owner that will come into me, and they would need to polish and learn better voice skills and public speaking skills to get out into the world. Now, both of these groups of people, both corporate and business owners, need visibility and credibility. The corporation people, of course, they need to be visible and credible within their organization. So the biggest obstacle that they need to overcome is really getting out of their own way. Sometimes people have no idea about how they come across to somebody else. When we don't record ourselves, our voice and our video, if we don't look back, how on earth are we supposed to know what the impression is that we give someone else?
Wow.
So when we give that first impression during a meeting or an update or whatever it is, The people on the other side of that, they may be thinking something that is completely wrong. So, for example, I'll get a corporate executive who has 20, 30 years experience. They really know their stuff inside out. But because for whatever reason, even though they're highly functioning, they still have some insecurity around public speaking. So they'll get up there, they'll mumble their way through the meeting. They will speak with no punctuation marks. They'll just ramble and not even draw breath. And then they
Yeah.
leave and they expect everybody in the room to have known exactly what happened and what to do next. Well, half the people in the meeting are going to go away a little bit confused. Maybe they didn't pay attention because of the way that that person spoke.
Wow.
You see, when we speak, we are making an impression, and we have to be aware that the person who's listening to us may get the wrong idea from that person because of the communication skills.
Yes. I mean, look, I just wrote down there about you saying visibility and credibility. I was
Yeah.
asking the question in my mind when you first came on, how can we get it across to the listener how important this is? And you've just articulated it perfectly. I mean, how much practice did you have around that, by the way? Or does it just flow from your mind now from...
Yeah, look, I know my stuff. I can. The interesting thing about working with voice, I was a singer and an actor for 35 years before I switched and I started doing a degree after degree. I became a bit of a degree junkie. And then when I went back to school and I'd learned all this stuff, I thought, wow, I've got so much mindset. I've got psychology, I've got counseling, holistic health, I've got voice and a master's degree in voice, and then 35 years of experience on camera and on stage. So I listen to people from a
Mm,
very different angle. When people speak, I hear things that other people don't understand or don't know. So, for example, if somebody is speaking, this is why I say mindset is audible, Louis. And this is what I
yes.
heard with you
Yeah.
originally. Mindset is audible. It's visible and audible. So when somebody doesn't have the right mindset and they don't have the right confidence, the way that they speak is not going to make an impact. It's not going to engage the audience because they're so stuck with them, like, oh, I feel so bad, or I'm really nervous, or they're not liking me, or whatever. You're thinking about you, you're putting all the pressure on you. But when you realize that it's not about us, it's about the message and the audience. We have to focus on what the audience needs and wants. And when people do that flip, then they can start to learn better. When somebody walks in the door, the first thing that I hear is the way that they're speaking. And I ask
Hmm.
myself the following questions: what psychology and mindset would have created that sound? And I know because the second that somebody speaks to me, because of the different patterns that I've learned myself, that that person might have been bullied as a child. That person might have been in an abusive relationship or multiple abusive relationships. Maybe that person was involved in some horrible trauma from years ago. All of these things, they sort of put these layers on our voice and our mind and our body because trauma is stored in the body. So when we understand that from a very deep level and we can start to break that down as an adult, decompose all those layers, or take off the coats, if you like, shed all those layers of onions. When we get back to the real person, the true person, your highest and best self, that's when you can start to learn the skills of public speaking and presentation. You cannot do that when you still have layers and layers and layers of protection. It's going to stop you from taking a step. So if I'm working with somebody and I can't break through their mindset because they won't allow it, they have a victim mindset, I can teach them everything I know, but they won't take action. So
Wow.
that's what I've learned the hard way, that I cannot work with victim mindsets. I refuse to, because they need to show me that they're ready to commit. They're ready to actually step out of their comfort zone and get shit done. If
Hmm.
they're not, then I can't work with them because I'm a results coach. I want results from my clients. I want people like you. People like you step up to the plate and they go, you know what? I'm feeling fear right now, and that's okay because I'll get over it. I'll learn new skills along the way and I will get better every time.
Incredible. I mean, mindset is audible is what's really resonating with me.
Yeah.
what you just said there, that just by listening to the way, not just the words that they're using, you're talking about here, it's the way that they say it, isn't it? There's a lot of message that comes across just by listening to the different tones and the way that people say this stuff. And of course, there's the visual way of doing it as well. I know, because I can give a little bit of secrets away here, but something that you do is I could just be completely muted right now and you would still know that there's something going on in my mindset that could really help me.
Right. Right. There was something interesting. One of the things that I hear in people's voices, because you were saying it's not words, and you're absolutely right. It's sound and
Hmm.
it's patterns. And for instance, I
Sound
was
and
sitting on a plane,
patterns.
sounds, so it was aesthetics and vocal
Yeah.
patterns. So we've
Right.
always got these two sides. When somebody sounds a certain way, so for example, if somebody speaks like that all the time, so the sound is really low in the throat and very deep and then very raspy and it's a lot of noise, then
Yeah.
that person usually is really harsh on themselves, or they hold back so much that they don't want anyone to see them because they go into vocal fry. You know, the kids
Wow.
in Disney, oh my God, it was so amazing. You know, my mom is such a blah, blah, blah. They go into this sound which makes them sound disempowered. And it also makes them sound very uninterested, very depressed, and I don't care attitude. It's very much a teenage thing. So when I hear a 26-year-old in corporate America come and speak to me like that, I want to whack them, because you're
Yeah.
never, ever going to get a promotion in business if you sound like a teenager. You're just not going to. If every second word is like, that's the pattern side. Like, yeah, no, it was like, and but, and it was like, and blah. So if you speak like that, that's the pattern side. You're also going to sound very immature and very incapable.
Yeah. I
So it's
mean,
very important that aesthetics and patterns have to be looked at, because sometimes it's both, sometimes it's one. It all depends on what the person has been through, on what their cultural and familial influences were.
wow. This is deep stuff. I mean,
I
this is
know.
this this is
People say to me,
incredible.
Lewis, oh, why do I need a voice coach? It's like, well, hang on. You don't realize how deep this work is until you actually hire me and get into it. And people go, I had no idea.
Yeah, look, it's voice coach is the what, isn't it? It's not the why. It's not the reason behind it at all. I mean, we're just by going through the. By the way, as I'm talking to you, it's highlighted in my world the things that I keep saying. Listen back to this podcast, listeners. How many times have I said, I mean, wow, you're fucking with my brain, Alyssa, just by talking to you straight away. I'm like, you're leveling me up, right? You're leveling me up just by having you on this
Yeah.
podcast. So what are the listeners going through? They're going to be having some real light bulb moments right now. Basically, is what I used to say with you, Alyssa. But
Yes,
don't
I
let
think
anything
I
get up
picked
on
on that one
stage.
up. Yeah, that's a filler. So some people
Yeah.
use fillers that are non-verbal, like
Mhm.
the noise is a big one. Some people are like this and that. So we don't really know as a listener whether that's an A, like a table or a
Yeah.
chair or an opportunity. It's a noise, but it sort of sounds like an A. It confuses the audience so much when you have those noises. But we do also equally, we put those comfort words in, like basically, or you know what I'm saying, or do you know what I mean? Or yeah, right.
Oh
Yeah,
shit! You've
right.
just caught me out. You just caught me
You're
out.
right. Yeah, and then so is a really good one too. So is a big filler for so many people. They think that so is a way to start a sentence. It's quite interesting. I see this a lot. And so we use it all the time. The word so we use all the time. However, if we use it in the right context, it makes much more sense. If we start a story, for example, I see this all the time. So tell me a story, blah, blah, blah. So I was at the shop the other day. Well, why do you need so to start a story? Well, I went to the supermarket the other day and the most amazing thing happened. If I say so, it's just time wasting. It doesn't do anything. It doesn't achieve anything.
Yeah, what you were just saying about the filler words as well. What I've noticed when people are talking, especially like watching a conversation or observing a conversation, people will use the word and because
Yeah,
they don't want the other person to talk. They want to keep talking. So
they want to say,
what's going on there? Is it in my mind? I'm thinking that person wants to be heard. They want to be seen as important.
Absolutely. They're basically a sound hog or a stage hog. Some people who are stage hogs, they really need to be heard. So they will struggle to be heard and talk over the top of somebody else. Now, these people are very insecure, or I've learned that they might have come from a very big family and had to fight for that attention, for that talking stick. So, for example, one of my clients, she was one of 11 children. Every time she speaks, if you wanted to chime in with something, she would just talk louder and faster over the top of you and shut you down. There was nothing you could do to interrupt her because she was desperate to have her voice heard over the competition. I find that some cultural backgrounds are like that too. The noisy cultural backgrounds will do that. But a lot of the time, British backgrounds like we tend to do the other thing. We tend to hold our tongue and not speak up when we really should. That's one thing I do find with my British clients, or my British, Irish, Scottish, that sort of background. Like me, we sweep everything under the rug. We keep a stiff upper lip and we just don't say anything. That's not appropriate either, especially in corporate America or when you're building a business. You need to speak up. But those verbal cues, fillers, spaces, pacing, pausing, all that, those verbal cues are imperative. So when somebody hogs that time, A, they're insecure, and B, they're desperate to be heard. What we need to do as speakers and listeners is make sure that we are pacing ourselves with a pause in the right space, or an inflection in the right space. Like, I'm not done, Lewis. I'm not quite done with my point, but now I'm actually done. And when I'm done,
Wow.
I leave a gap. And that gap tells you, the other tennis player in this conversation here, that it's your turn. If I don't leave that gap, how are you going to know as a human that it's your turn to speak or your turn to retort?
Yeah. I mean, how much is this costing people? Give me a scenario. I was
Hundreds of
coaching
that.
a
Can
client
you
the other day.
imagine?
Yeah, yeah. I was coaching a client the other day, and it was a team meeting, and they'll probably listen to this. I haven't told this person yet. One thing I marked down, and I didn't have the right to pull it up there and then, but I thought, look, if I don't tell this person something that he's communicating to his team, if he goes and does that in front of a £1 million deal, it's going to cost him the deal.
Yeah, that's
You
exactly
find
right.
similar things to your clients.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It would be nice to be able to put a price on that. However, the opposite side of that story, I was working with somebody who has a big contracting company. He works with environmentally friendly options for roads and building things for the government. He has a big government contracts. When he first came to me, he did all presentations in a big ramble. So people would walk away being dazed and not really getting it. And I taught him in the very first lesson, a confused mind will always say no. You're never going to close a deal if you have all of that going on. Is too much noise in your presentation. It's not clear enough. You want it to be so clear that people at the end of the presentation know exactly what they're signing up for, exactly what the pros and cons are, and they know where to sign and what to do next. But if you don't cover that in your presentation, if you don't think about the delivery of your content, not just the content, how many people spend hours working on their presentation and never friggin' rehearse it? Not even once out loud. I mean, do you know how many performers would do that? I'm not going to learn a song just to learn a song. Here's something that would be really, really interesting for all of your clients. And you can relate this to your personal performance in work. The difference between an amateur singer and a professional singer. An amateur singer will learn a song until they get it right, but a professional singer will learn a song until they cannot get it wrong. There's a
Wow.
massive difference in delivery. So when this
Wow.
guy, my student Matt, when he did this presentation, it was a high stakes presentation for a multi-million-dollar contract. He hired me for 12 sessions and I worked his ass off getting that proposal together. And he did that 20, 30-minute presentation, smashed it out of the park, and landed a multi-million-dollar contract because of that coaching. That's
Fuck.
what public speaking coaching and presentation coaching can do for you as a business owner or you as a corporate executive. Because you don't know how much money you're leaving on the table. You just don't know.
Now, listen, but look, I mean, there's different scenarios here. And just for the listeners, of how important communication is. If we was to chunk it up, communication, effective, powerful communication.
Yep.
Public people go, oh, okay, well, maybe if I do public speaking, I'll get in touch with Elisa. And I know public speaking coaches in the UK as well, and very big on, how you stand, have the wire above your head and all this stuff. It's great. You take it to another level when you talk about your psychology here. But the
Yep.
impact that this may have, look, this is not just about public speaking.
No.
If you're a manager or an A player, any A player, doesn't have to be a business owner, doesn't have to be an entrepreneur, intrapreneur, anybody in a business. If you ever get the frustrations that, people don't fucking listen to me. People, I say one thing, but you just do the opposite anyway. It's a toxic thing that starts to manifest, and then it's literally like you're going around sneezing in people's faces because there's a contagion effect of this toxicity, all because of the thing of people aren't listening to me, so I don't feel heard. Well,
Exactly.
it's not the way that it's not what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. Effective
Exactly.
communication doesn't just mean you got to go and, right. Let's say, why would people go and do a public speaking course? I've got to do a presentation at my friend's wedding and I'm absolutely fearful of it, but I'm not going to let my friend down. Or I've got to get up on stage and do a corporate event in front of a client. It's not about that. It's about you've got to go and take a few bullets first. Practice this stuff all the fucking time.
Yep. That's exactly right. Because everything is impacted by your communication, the quality of your communication. And have a think about what you just said. If we take the corporate out of it or the public speaking part out of it for a second, if you're one of those people that nobody listens to and you don't know how to talk to a girl or you don't know how to behave in a job interview, how are you going to get ahead in life? You're going to attract the wrong people. You're going to have relationships that don't work, that people are playing that terrible dance of attack, defend. I'll just turn that off. My goodness, I forgot. Attack, defend, attack, defend, attack, defend all the time. That is not communication. That's living from a very low vibrational space. So when you learn to listen differently, when you learn to understand yourself and what triggers that you have and how to manage those, self-regulation, then you can start to speak from a very, very different place. That's when people will listen and the money will drop. The idea, will drop. Things will start to work. Your relationships will improve, or you'll find a better partner that is a better fit for you because you're now living your value and your worth. You're living up to who you're meant to be, not some shadow self of you. And this is the biggest problem. Years ago, Louis, I labeled myself as shy and less than. Because of that belief system, I spoke and behaved in a certain way. What did that do? Attracted all the wrong people, lost opportunities, missed out on gigs, blah, blah, blah. It affects our life on every level, every level.
It does. That thing about shy as well, we find it, I've got four, I'm one of four brothers. Mm-hmm. And something that was in my mind for a very long time was, hey, I'm quite introvert. And I will actually turn around and say, hey, look, you think I'm an extrovert because I do a bloody podcast. I'm an introvert. Where did that come from? People decide who's an introvert and who's an extrovert and things. I've learned to develop extroversion. But there was a lot of support when I was younger growing up. Whenever I was in a conversation or a situation where, my mum would meet a friend and go, hey, look, here's Louis. And I would just be like, who's this stranger? I don't want to talk to them particularly because maybe I'm quite introverted. My mum would turn around and protect me with all best ways of doing this and go, the boys are just a little bit shy. Right. Now, what that does is it manifests throughout life. It's a label. Yeah. Hey, I'm just shy. That's not right for me. I can't do that because I'm shy. And then when I was 20, going on to 30, I can't do public speaking because I'm shy. I can't speak in front of in business owners because I'm shy. I can't go and close a £10 million deal because I'm shy.
Yeah, we put these labels upon ourselves. It doesn't mean it's true. It really doesn't.
Doesn't mean it's true.
There's a huge difference between being an introvert and being shy. Right. I had to learn that the hard way. There's nothing wrong with being an introvert. There's so many successful people, Louis, that are introverts. It just simply means that when you're giving on stage or you're teaching or whatever you're doing, you're in the spotlight, That's great for short periods of time, but then afterwards, you need to go home and be by yourself to recharge your batteries. It's as simple
Right.
as that.
That's amazing. That's a
Where
life changer, what you just said there. Yeah.
it's so simple, but an extrovert will want to go into the audience and shake hands and kiss babies and have a photograph and go out and party with their friends afterwards until 3 o'clock in the morning because they recharge by people. I
Mm,
don't. I recharge on my own in my privacy of my own home with a little bit of meditation or deep breathing or whatever. It doesn't mean I'm shy. It's a completely different story. I can go up to anyone, Lewis, and have a conversation and be completely fine. And that's me being an introvert. I proudly wear the badge of introvert. There's nothing wrong with it whatsoever.
exactly. And I think another element to this, to go even deeper, Elisa, is that there's a great book called The Courage to be Disliked. I don't know if you've read that or heard about that book.
Oh,
But what this book talks about is that these labels that people have, sometimes people like the labels because it protects them. It gives them an identity.
absolutely.
So
Yep.
so to
It gives
say,
them
oh,
something.
I'm shy. Go on, sorry, what did you say
Yeah,
there?
no, it gives them something. You're right. You said it gives them something. That's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, have a listen or read that book, listeners. Go and check out that book. It's one of my most recommended books. And the reason it's called The Courage to be Disliked is because people won't like you for repeating the stuff back in that book. But it comes from a place of where a lot of people think that psychology is psychology. It's actually Freudian psychology that they're referring to. There's lots of
Mm.
schools of psychology.
Yep.
Adlerian psychology is a totally different perspective on psychology. And it really frustrates me. Obviously, I'm doing a doctorate in organizational psychology. And when I
Ah,
hear about teachers and people, teaching in the universities, and they're talking about Freudian psychology, I'm like, well, what's an Adlerian psychology angle on that? And they're like, well, I don't really know because it's just what we've been taught in our syllabus. Well, that's
right.
dangerous because now you're teaching psychologists how to be psychologists based on Freudian psychology. So, the difference in Freudian psychology, by the way, for the listeners, is that Freudian psychology talks about your past and tell me about your childhood. Lie down on a chair
Yep.
and tell me about all your problems. Yeah.
Yep.
Adlerian
Talk to us.
psychology is like what you said at the start, Alyssa, is to turn around and go, look, my past doesn't determine my future.
Bingo.
I can change it today. I'm not a victim of it. I'm a victor of it.
I love it. I love it. That's like life
Nice job.
coaching. That's a much better idea. Absolutely.
Exactly.
That's like positive psychology, where you actually take
Yes.
responsibility for who you are right now, because you can't keep blaming people forever. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can blame your parents until you're 18, but after that, you have to say, well, hang on, I'm an adult now. I have to make my own decisions and I have to make my own belief systems and build my own self worth. This is me. This is my responsibility. So from here forth, I have to make better decisions for me. That's as
Mm.
simple as it is. And we all have to do that. But some people go through life just pointing the finger of blame everywhere they go and not taking responsibility for their words, their thoughts, or their actions. And that's going to give you great unhappiness.
Amazing, amazing. Listen, we're going to jump into the 100K club now for the members in there. If you do want to become a part of the members club of the 100K club, like I said, just click on the padlock and it's the same price as Netflix. So, it's a subscription model. You can jump onto there and you get content from people like Elisa and all the other guests that have come on that exclusively give you the action steps to move forward. So we'll jump into there in a while, Elisa. But before we do, two things. Well,
Yep.
I'll present the first one first. Okay. So what would you like the listeners to walk away from today? What biggest learning would you like to give them as a gift and say, just go and do this and it will change your life?
Hire a coach. It's the
Really?
fastest way to success for anybody. If you want to do it alone, I believe that 2% of people can actually do things alone. But if you know that your communication skills are not getting you to where you really want to go in life, it's not giving you the visibility or the credibility that you really need to succeed, then do yourself a favor and hire a coach, whether it's
Mm,
via Zoom or whether it's in person. Make sure that it's the right fit for you and that person is ahead of you, of course, ahead of the game, got good visibility and credibility, and make sure that they know what they're talking about. Because you have to feel good about yourself at the end of the day. And you have to sit on that rocking chair when you're 80. And instead of saying, I could have, I should have, you're going to say, I did that. I actually
mm,
took action. Maybe I took action a little later in life. I was 50 or 60 when I took action. Who cares? I still got to where I wanted to go. I still hit my goals and I still made my dreams come true. And you know what? On top of that, I'm a good person as well as all the success that I've had in my life. You
That's
need to
amazing.
take action by hiring a coach that's going to get you to where you want to go because it's hard to do it alone. It really is.
That's incredible advice. I mean, I I'm a big believer of that, and it's easy for me to say because
Me
I am
too.
a coach. But the reason
Yeah.
for that is I just coach people in one area, which is business, and with the A Players podcast, a separate thing is to give people the opportunity on a wider scale. I can't sit one to one with a lot of people, and that's why I do the podcast to make a
Yeah.
wider impact. So yeah, I've got coaches, financial coaches. I've got my own business coach as well. I've got sales coaches, the lot. Voice coach is
Wow.
a communication coach. He's a part of that too. So
Yeah.
it's a big thing. Now, before we started this podcast, and this links on to number two, what I was going to speak about as well, is how do people follow you, Elisa? And then there's a little bit of a caveat to this as well. So how do people follow you, Elisa?
Mostly they find me on Google and YouTube, The Voice of
Yeah.
Confidence TV.
Yes, they do. Now, here's the caveat to it, right? You've got 50,000 subscribers on YouTube. Yeah. And you've only got
51
that
something.
51. Well, okay. Well, I read that a few
Today, it
days
just
ago.
went up another 1,000 today.
Yeah, brilliant, amazing. Now, the first thing I said to you was, listen, that's incredible because now you're hitting the global impact and making a bigger impact. I said, how did you achieve that? And you said,
Time,
yeah,
effort, and I hired a coach. 100%. 100%. I didn't want to struggle doing that by myself. I looked at it and I think I did for the first couple of months and I didn't do very well. I was not happy with the results that I was getting. And so I hired a coach. Yeah, I put a big chunk of money down too because I wanted the best coach. I didn't want
yes,
to just waste time. I wanted the best coach. And the coach that I hired had so many other massive, massive players in the industry. I knew I was in the right place.
yeah. So you get what you pay for, don't you? And that's why you got 50,000 and heading towards 100,000 subscribers on YouTube. What's the YouTube handle, by the way,
Absolutely.
so people on this podcast can follow you on there?
The Voice of Confidence TV.
The Voice of Confidence TV.
Yeah.
Absolutely amazing. It's real inspiration. I dabble in YouTube, but one of the biggest lessons I've had from you today is that you can't fucking dabble in stuff if you're serious about it.
No.
One, invest time. Two, invest money in somebody that
Yeah.
can get you there faster, a coach.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I do the same thing too. I always have coaches for different parts of my life.
Amazing, amazing. Hey, players, hope you enjoyed the show. Catch you on the next episode. And do smash a like button on this podcast. Leave a comment if you got any sort of comments that you want to do. And remember the fee. The fee that needs to be paid by making this free is that we ask that you share this with somebody else that you could help change their lives by sharing this podcast with them. Elisa, I'll
Beautiful.
catch you in the 100K Club. Hey, players, if you are a member, catch you in the 100K Club. If not, catch you on the next A Players episode.